Donald Trump likes to talk tough, so it's no surprise he tapped a tough-talking general for Secretary of Defense. Meet retired Marine Corps General James Mattis. His nickname, Mad Dog, a name that stuck after the Battle of Fallujah. His military call sign, Chaos. Here's General Mattis in his own words.
You have to earn that respect. You have to earn that every day. Because when it's all over and done with, you're not going to win any fights as a leader. Your troops are going to win those fights. Trying to be a popular person as a leader, that's a road to failure. But affection that you create in a unit, an affection so strong that the troops will stick by one another, they'll carry out the mission even in peril. The more you can build that kind of affection in a unit, when the going gets tough, when people are getting shot down around you, it'll pull together, it'll pull through.
One of my next guests describes Mattis as a cool, calm, and deliberate leader. An example, in 2003, the day before the invasion of Iraq, Mattis wrote a letter to his Marines. Here's part of it. Quote, "You are part of the world's most feared and trusted force. Engage your brain before you engage your weapon." It went on to say, "Fight with a happy heart and a strong spirit." With me now, CNN military analyst and retired General Mark Hertling. He led soldiers in Baghdad in 2003 when Mattis led Marines in the Anbar province. I'm also joined by retired Lieutenant Colonel Joe Plensler. He's a 20-year combat veteran of the Marine Corps. He served with Mattis and was the General's public affairs officer for the invasion of Iraq. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you for being here. So General Hertling, Donald Trump likened Mattis to General George Patton, who led troops during World War II. To get a sense of who Patton was, here's actor George C. Scott in the movie Patton.
All real Americans love seeing a battle. Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I wouldn't give a hoot in hell for a man who lost. We're not just going to shoot the bastards. We're going to cut out their living guts and use them to grease the treads of our tanks.
Okay, so General Patton earned the nickname Old Blood and Guts. So is General Mattis like Patton?
I don't believe he is, Carol. General Mattis is a much more reflective and personal guy, but truthfully, all general officers, all good leaders, sometimes have to go into a little bit of theatrics. And that clip from the movie Patton, which I think Mr. Trump likes quite a bit, is a compilation of a lot of George Patton's speeches to his soldiers during World War II. So, but it is also Hollywood. There is a certain requirement for commanders on the battlefield to have that kind of approach to get their soldiers or their Marines fired up. And General Mattis has been known to do that, but he is also very much of an intelligent soldier scholar, a reflectionary. He carries around a copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations with him as a Stoic. So he's much more of a leader than General Patton was, truthfully.
Lieutenant Colonel Plensler, you say there's the tough-talking idea of Mad Dog Mattis, and, you know, generally, by those who know him, they say he's tough-talking. And then there's the General Mattis that you know and love. So explain the difference for us.
Yeah, I think the dichotomy is a mile wide. I mean, you know, we all knew him by his call sign, Chaos, and I know General Mattis to be a very deliberate, very thoughtful, very caring leader for those he led. I mean, the reason the Marines loved him was, first and foremost, he's a person of character. Second, he's a savant at the art of war. And third, he took care of the Marines and soldiers and sailors and the airmen that he led, you know, at all stages of his career. So, you know, the Mad Dog just doesn't fit with the General Mattis that I know. And the people that I know and have served with him are always known by Chaos.
So General, you know, Michael Flynn is Trump's NSA advisor. So how are they two very different sort of men and different sort of leaders?
Well, they are certainly both patriots. They have a different view of the world. I would suggest that General Mattis is going to have a much more mature and informed view of strategy than General Flynn. He has an understanding of force and the threats that we face around the world, not just ISIS, but others like the Russians and Chinese and Iran. He understands NATO much better than General Flynn does. So I think General Mattis, if he is formally chosen as the pick for Secretary of Defense, will give a much more mature and informed view as the Secretary of Defense. But he also has to run a very large business called the Department of Defense. And there's a lot more in that beyond just the soldier and the tactics and the strategy piece of all this.
Colonel Plensler, there are plenty of Americans out there who are afraid that Donald Trump might take us to war. Do you worry about that?
Yeah, I think all of us that have served and fought in combat, are concerned about that. Absolutely.
Well, I just want to get more into that because, Donald Trump says he likes tough-talking generals. He wants to talk tough to our enemies. And sometimes tough talk isn't the way. So should we worry, Colonel?
Well, I would say that the reaction I'm hearing from a lot of my friends who have served with General Mattis and have known him is that, it's a complicated reaction because we're, first and foremost, we think that maybe this is the first cabinet pick that Mr. Trump has gotten right. And second, while we share trepidations about Mr. Trump's ability to lead, we also share a admiration and respect for General Mattis. So we just hope that he's listened to.
Okay, and General Herling, the last... Go ahead.
If I could add something to that, too, and I think Colonel Prensler would agree with me that the people who hate war the most are those who have suffered through it. When you have combat experience, you know that the costs are great, and General Mattis certainly knows that. He's buried a lot of his Marines. He's seen some of the unbelievably horrible things that can happen in combat. So people who have experienced combat are the ones who are the most likely to push back when those who haven't try and get you involved in combat. So I think that mature approach is going to be welcomed in the Trump administration.
And we could fill Chicago's Soldier Field with the dead and wounded from the last 15 years of war.
Yeah, sadly that's true. Thank you both for your insight, General Mark Hertling and Lieutenant Colonel Joe Plensler. And thanks to both of you for your service as well.
Thank you.